is. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy Pharaoh the God, always on the job. I got five. Let's talk. It's that time again to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell another friend. Share, like, and subscribe. Don't hide. The buttons ain't got no teeth. So go ahead and reach. Welcome to another episode of I Got Five. Let's talk. Where the motto is, we're California Bears. We keep it fair like California Bears. We're not California Raisins. And some men do no hate. With that being said, disclaimer. What are we what we are going to talk about today has to do with the Zionistic Jews and how the IDF was formed. Yes, I said we're going to talk about the Zionistic Jewish Army, better known as the IDF, the Israeli Defense, uh, whatever. In no way do I want to paint a picture other than what history has told us. I am not saying these people are bad. I'm not saying that they are good. I am merely giving my assessment of the content and the data that is in the metaverse. Also, I do not condone the hatred of any kind, whether it be Jewish or otherwise. I also say all power to black power and all power to the people. Long live Assata Shakur. The revolution will be televised. They can't stop it. I do not preach hate. I do not preach racial hatred. I am merely making an assessment. This platform, I Got Five. Let's Talk. I am the host, Pharaoh the God, and I'm always on my job. You may take what you will of this content, and that's cool. With that being said, let's start the show.
The Israeli Defense Force, Israel's well-funded and high-tech army, is the most moral army in the world. That is, if you believe the branding. צה"ל בצבא המוסרי ביותר בעולם. IDF is a moral army. The most moral. The IDF does more to safeguard the rights of civilians than any other army in the history of warfare. But apart from the allegations of crimes in Gaza, the attempts to paint it as an animal-friendly, queer-friendly, religiously tolerant military institution, the history of the IDF says more about it than its social media image. Before the formation of the State of Israel in 1948, and before there was an Israeli army, there were three underground Zionist militias: the Haganah, the Irgun, and the Lehi. They were comprised of mainly Jewish migrants to the British Mandate of Palestine, with the aim of helping usher in the Jewish state by any means necessary. They differed in their tactics and beliefs, and at times fought with each other, but together they terrorized Palestinian villages, committed acts of violence, terrorism, and ethnic cleansing.
Now you don't say that. Don't you dare start to say, oh, they're ethnic cleansing. They're committing mass genocide. To some people, it may be. To others, it may not be. Again, merely, I do not support mass genocide. I do not support the faction that all Jews are bad. And I am not anti-Semitic. Again, I'm merely giving my assessment.
It executed bombings and assassinations against the British to force them to give up control of the land. They blew up hotels in Jerusalem, embassies in Europe, and assassinated a UN mediator.
Wait a minute. So you talking about the most moralist, most progressive state or people is the IDF? Hey Siri, was the IDF ever known to kill a UN secretary in Britain? List of Israeli assassinations. The following is a list of alleged and confirmed assassinations reported to have been conducted by the State of Israel. It includes attempts on persons who were reported to have been specifically targeted by the various Israeli security, intelligence, and law enforcement agencies. In the 1950s, you have the target was Colonel Mustafa Hafiz from Egypt. The place was the Gaza Strip. That happened July 11th. 3 days later, on July 14th, was in the place of Amman in Jordan, Lieutenant Colonel Salah Mustafa. In the 60s, in September, in Munich, West Germany, you had Heinz Kron, uh, West German rocket scientist working for Egypt's missile program. Same year, November 28th, place, Hulan, United Arab Republic. Uh, Target, 5 Egyptian factory workers. Workers employed at Factory 333 at an Egyptian rocket factory. Later, letter bomb sent bearing Humbre Post. Another such bomb disfigured and blinded a secretary, part of Operation Damocles. February, 3 years later, 23rd, Montevideo, uh, er, Ergery. Herbert Kudins, aviator who has been involved in the murders of Latvian Jews during the Holocaust, lured to and killed in Montevideo by agents under the false pretense of starting an aviation business. Sounds familiar. July 8th, 72. Beirut, Lebanon. Ghassan Kanafani, Palestinian writer and leader. Man, we could go on, man. We could go on. But this is giving clarification to what he's saying about the idea.
All of this happened before 1948, because after Israel was officiated as a state, these three groups would be brought together to create the IDF, and their militia leaders would go on to form Israel's government, become politicians, ambassadors, and prime ministers. And their dark history would be forgotten. So, let's talk about it.
Keep watching if your recent car accident was not your fault, because I've got a way that you could get 3.5 times more compensation.
Let's begin at the turn of the 20th century. Europe was embroiled in revolution, war, and great social upheaval. Anti-Semitism had been rife for centuries in Europe, but attacks against Jewish communities had become widespread, particularly in Russia. While most attempted to flee to the United States, around 30,000 Russian Jews migrated to Palestine from 1882 to 1904, then under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. These communities were known as the Jewish.
The Ottoman Empire were Muslims. Muslims welcoming Jews. That seems odd, since now all we hear about that Muslims hate Jews, especially from Benjamin Netanyahu. But that's not the case here. Let's continue.
And they built small, self-reliant settlements independent of the old issue, who considered mostly Arab Jews who migrated to Jerusalem for centuries, mostly for religious practice. Unlike the old issue, the new issue were driven by a new ideology that was growing popular among European Jews as well as some influential Christian figures. Zionism.
The basis of Zionism is the belief that Jewish questions
Now, here we have the belief not by other members of humanity and mankind, but only by the Ashkenazi Jew that is better known as Khazarians. They made the assumption and believed in it, therefore they had this talk.
Some Jews, given the rising anti-Semitism, could only be solved territorially. That is, by establishing a state of their own. That state had to be Palestine, because that way you could use religious legitimacy to justify these settlement.
The new Yishuv were ambitious. They built farms, formed trade unions, and councils to purchase land from Palestinians. They also began to form small militias, seeking to replace hired Arab watchmen with Jewish guards to protect the new outposts. Some of these militias, like Bar Giora, had bigger plans. Its members wanted to create the beginnings of an underground army, one that
Now, like every other government, you have, the army, the military, Air Force, Green Beret, whatever, whatever. To be somewhat fair here, Israel is being formed, so you have a lot of people doing under the carpet type things, right? Off the book type things. But let's see how this plays out.
they serve the future Jewish state. Fight. One of its founders was a young slave owner called David Green, who migrated to Palestine in 1906. He was shocked at how many Palestinian Arabs worked in the several companies as farmers and guards, and set about trying to build connections between migrants and fundraise to ensure the issue would become completely self-reliant. This included immigrants. Like many other Jewish migrants, he later adopted the Holocaust name and would hence be known as neighbor Mentor. Militias like Bar Giora began to form large networks, most prominent being Hashem, or Earth Watchmen. Despite only having a few dozen members, Hashem began to think of itself as guarding all the colonies and properties by the new issue, but as a vigilante force that would respond to disputes. If a Jewish person was attacked by a Palestinian, Hashem would send its armed members to seek revenge. They were inspired by Ukrainian Cossacks and, interestingly, Palestinian Bedouins. They rode on horseback and even dressed in keffiyehs. Weird, right? In his book Orientalism and the Evil Imagination, historian Yaron Peleg says the young Zionists wanted to recreate the image of the Jewish man and reject the anti-Semitic tropes of Jews as weak and passive. In the new Yishuv, they focused on farming and fighting as ways to build stronger, more self-reliant men. What Zionist leader Max Morgan described as muscular Judaism. And while they drew inspiration from the agricultural Arabs they saw around them, they no longer wanted to rely on Palestinian laborers or unconquered settlements. The Jewish state of the future had to rely on a Jewish workforce, and eventually a Jewish army. At this point, the total Jewish population of Palestine was around 60,000 and accounted for only about 7% of the population. With many of the earlier Russian migrants going back home, the situation eased. By the end of the war, everything had changed. The Ottoman Empire collapsed, and Palestine was taken over by the British.
Once the Muslims empire collapsed, everything begins to change in the world. This big, scary Muslim empire, don't let it, they will come to build, they will come to only dominate you for what the past has done. There's only one group of people that has actually done that. And it's not the Muslim community. So once the Ottoman Empire loses control over the Middle East and Palestine, this is the same group of people that took in the Jewish immigrants. The same ones. Christian Zionists. So now that means Christian religion but Zionistic beliefs. We seeing how Zionism is playing out. If you can't talk about Zionism on the internet and or YouTube, what is that saying? Don't you dare say it. Put it in the comments. So I won't get in trouble. But this is the type of things that people must walk uphill against.
In a wave of migration to the new Yeshuv, when up to 100,000 Jewish migrants arrived from Eastern Europe in the decade following the war. By now, the Palestinian Arab population were starting to feel like some things were outraged at the Balfour Declaration, and many of them saw it as the European plot to call.
How would you feel if the Mexicans came from Mexico and started trying to colonize America? Or how would you feel, how would Canada feel if the Americans started to migrate to Canada and take over Canada? Excuse me. I'm not too sure if the Americans or the Canadians would be fond of that. I'm not too sure if Mexico was invaded with immigrants from Guatemala or El Salvador, they would be okay with that. I don't think no country is okay with being invaded or allowing the immigrants to come in their country and then start taking over the banks, the loans, the interest rates, the gold, the diamonds, the business. I think those people that are the original constituents to that country would not be fond of that anywhere you go.
Arab land, house purchases in Jerusalem and Hebron were increasing, as were the construction of Jewish kibbutzes and settlements. What pushed tensions to the brink was the increased religious activity around the Western Wall and the Al-Aqsa compound, which some radical voices were arguing should be under total Jewish control. This spilled over into riots and general strikes targeting British and Jewish outposts, which escalated into communal fighting in 1920 and 1921. The Zionist leaders improved that local paramilitary groups needed to be better organized and better equipped to protect the new Yeshuv. This led to the establishment of the Haganah, or the defense, which formed from the Hashemite groups, as well as an influx of soldiers.
Again, disclaimer, this is all assumptions and assessments. But again, this is data that is put on the metaverse, so we're going to commentate on it. Again, I always say that my page has always been attacked. Every time I post something about the Zionist people, they're always saying that it preaches hate and that it preaches anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic propaganda. So again, I am not calling for the downfall of the Jewish people.
But served in Jewish regiments in the British Army during World War I. They smuggled in war advancements. By the 1930s, the majority of Jewish settlers were enlisted, and the paramilitary group became the foundation of the new Yeshuv. The Haganah now resembled what the Bar Giora had dreamt up, an underground army fighting for the premise of a Jewish state. Initially, they coordinated and at times fought alongside the British against Palestinian
Wait a minute. So you telling me that the British government, after being attacked, bombed, and the UN secretary assassinated, that now the British are working with and or for the Jewish settlement? How does that happen? It can't be by all these conspiracy theories that they caught them in compromising positions and was able to manipulate. Shh, don't you say that word. But if you know the word I'm talking about, go ahead and put it in a comment. How does a country go from being victimized by another country, brutally victimized, but then turn around and help that country?
Ben Gurion didn't want to confront the Arabs head on, not at this stage at least. He also didn't want to create problems with his British allies and instituted a policy of al-Lagab, restraint. Under his watch, the Haganah forces will only be deployed to protect Jewish settlements, not launch offenses against Palestinian villages. At least, not for another 100 years.
Got an accident? Don't call here. Use this free AI tool instead. Listen, I walked away with $93,000 from a vehicle.
In a letter he would later write to his son in 1937, Ben Gurion made his intentions pretty clear. Quote, "We must expel the Arabs and take their places. And if we have to use force, not to dispossess the Arabs of the negative battle to Transjordan, but to guarantee our own right to settle in those places, then we have force at our disposal."
But weren't you able to settle in those places? This is like allowing somebody into your home. You're renting a room. You wake up one morning and he says, I own the living room too. Then you wake up and he says, oh yeah, the kitchen is mine too. You can't go in and move all your stuff out. Then he says the bathroom is mine too. You only could stay in your room. After years of that, he starts moving in his family. And now you have to share your room with people that you allowed to rent a room. Now they own the house and you're only able to be in the room. At some point in time, you're gonna get tired of that. You're gonna speak up for your rights. You're gonna say, wait a minute, my name is on the lease. I have rights to this house. I was only renting you a room and you need to leave. Now, what if these people whoop your ass and force you out, but then tell you your teenage children can stay there, but they can't use none of their amenities? Don't you dare say that's the same thing as, if you know where it's going on, tell me where it's at now.
Ben Gurion's focus was back in Europe, with the tides of anti-Semitism rising to unprecedented levels. With the emergence of Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich, it became clear efforts were made to transfer as many Jews to Palestine as possible. Over the next decade, 250,000 European Jews would flee to Palestine.
Why Palestine? Why Palestine? Do they need help? The IDF is being formed. Oh, they're only asking them, hey man, we have a house over here you can rent, man. Come on over. That's why it's all those people coming over.
Pushing existing tensions to a boiling point. The divisions within the Haganah were between those who followed Ben Gurion's lead and another group of revisionist Zionists who not only felt that the British were getting in the way of the dream of creating a greater Israel with a whole command in Palestine, but who also believed that this greater Israel should extend to all of Jordan, parts of Lebanon, Syria, but today. His dream and reality, they needed to put an end to Palestinian
Why would he write such a letter? Why would you want to take something from somebody that allowed you to come over there? Now, I'm pretty sure people would say, well, you know, it's like the Americans when they was first started, they had the Confederacy, they had road rules. Yeah, and America went through a lot of backlash for hiring them type of people with said behavior in their bloodstream. A child doesn't stop being bad because it wants to. A child stops being bad because of discipline. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would say, you know, it's anti-Semitic or it's, you know, Jewish hate speech. But is it not just sometimes telling history from a different perspective? Why do the Zionist regime and those that support Zionism get so mad when you talk about Zionism? And why is it that everything that somebody has to say bad about Zionism and the alleged atrocities that are linked with Zionism, why is it that they always get banned? I'm not saying that they're doing something wrong or they're spewing hate. Some people do spew hate. Some people do. But sometimes, some people tell the truth. And sometimes people are right. There's not a lot of things you can say against the Zionist regime, because if you do, you will regret it. As some people say, Charlie Kirk regretted it, or will regret it, however you say. But stay tuned for part 2. Welcome to another episode of I Got 5 Let's Talk. Thank you very much.